Shalom. First and foremost, all praise and glory is unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachak Wadash. Double honor to our apostles, the bishops, the elders of the great millstone. Greetings, salutations, blessings, much love unto you elect. Shalom unto you. Your brother Shaquat with a video. And it starts off with this scripture here, Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Okay, so this video will be going into a few articles about World War III, okay, and where we've progressed to. So last we picked up, well, let me get to it, because I've had some trouble with my videos, and a lot has been happening at a very fast rate. Before I can get the videos out, different things have happened. So the first two videos, the first one was about Israel bombing Iran. Let me get those articles. I still got them, well, some of them anyway. Okay, and it's right here. This is from the 12th of June. Okay, Israel had bombed Iran's capital, Tehran. Okay, and there's all kinds of videos about it. And there's just bombing, right? And then the next one, okay, it's saying the same thing. Explosions and missiles. That one was, I forgot, that one was on X. This is on RT. Israel strikes Iran videos. This is from the 13th, right? It says explosions and missiles interceptions reported in Tehran on Friday. All right, and it goes all the way in. This breaks it down a little bit more, some of those same footages. But it says Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced on Friday. Yeah, it's recording audio. Okay, good. It says on Friday that the Israeli Air Force has conducted a preemptive strike in Iran. And one of the videos I had was Netanyahu saying, we got to stop them. They can't get nuclear war, and this, and this is not a threat. They said they're getting it, and we're not going to be threatened like that. And, everything he's saying, okay, trying to make a reason. They're like, man, we ain't even threatening y'all like that. But he's not going to play with it. He's going to go straight at, straight bombing, which we know that's what they've been wanting to do. Okay, we know that he's been wanting to go in there. He's on a war path, running through the Middle East, and he figures, hey, I'm on a roll. I might as well keep going, right? This is just to bring you up to speed. Okay, Iranian media reported explosion in Tehran as well as missile interceptions. All right, it's talking about all of that. Comes weeks after simmering tensions following the collapse and renewed negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. Multiple news outlets reported last month that Israel had discussed potential strikes on Iranian nuclear sites within the United States. Okay, U.S. President, and this is key, U.S. President Donald Trump recently accused Tehran of slow-walking the negotiations and reiterating that his objective is the complete dismantlement of Iran's nuclear program. Iran has denied pursuing nuclear weapons, maintaining that its nuclear activities are solely for civilian purposes. All right. That same day, we have Russia warns Israeli attack on Iran was unprovoked. Come on, man. Ain't bullshit. This was unprovoked and illegal. Okay. Right, Russia, and this is all key to what happened. And look, this is just, if it was the 12th, now it's the 13th. So I'm following you, and I'm going to condense these videos. I did like two videos. I was doing a third one of how this plays. So now I'm going to just condense it into one. And Lord willing, we don't have the same audio and, problems I had last and uploading problems. So forgive me, but yeah, let's get to it. This is prophecy. Okay, and it says, Russia strongly condemned Israel's military strike on Iran, labeling them as unprovoked and in violation of international law. Russian Foreign Ministry issued a statement denouncing the attacks, which targeted Iranian nuclear facilities, ballistic missile factories, and military commanders as a breach of the United Nations Charter. And they hit, let me get the guy. Okay, so we have Soleimani killed, Mohammed Bagheri, Ali Salamakani, Salamakani, right? That's who hit. And that was just on the 13th, right? It was a CNN article. Okay. These people were all some military and nuclear leaders. Okay. Iran's highest ranking military officer, the head of its elite Revolutionary Guard Corps, and its Air Force and former national security chief have all been killed in Israel's unprecedented Operation Rising Lion. Okay, and this is bringing you up to speed on everything that's happened. Okay, salami. Anyway, it says their deaths will send shockwaves to the nation's military establishment and could seriously hamper the Islamic Republic's ability to respond to Israel's attacks. Here's what you need to know about them. All right, and this article, you can go and get this article to get tightened up on all these leaders. Okay. General Bagari, Alamani, Ali Salakamani, Hazadat, I can't even say them all. Okay. But that's all the guys right there. Well, on the 13th as well, it says Iran strikes back at Israel with missiles over Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Okay, so if you've been under a rock and you're acting like you don't know what's been going on, this is what's been going on. Okay, and what I didn't quote was Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Okay, we've done breakdowns on it. I think I've already done one or went into it a little bit this week. Okay, hopefully this gets up. And if necessary, I'll go all the way through it again. But brothers have been going through it all week. Okay? And it has, Magog, when you go into the land of Magog, is basically talking about where Russia now is, will be a guard unto Persia, which is Iran, and the different Turkey and different other nations in the Middle East right there. Okay? And they just kind of go into it, right? It says, latest developments. Iran launches hundreds of missiles after Israeli strikes on nuclear site. Israel aims to prevent Iran from building nuclear weapons, Netanyahu says. Trump urges Tehran to halt bombing by reaching nuclear deal. Okay, and Trump tried to stop it by saying, hey, stop bombing them. Let's just come to a deal. Let's come to a deal. Iran's supreme leader accuses Israel of initiating war, vows painful revenge. And we know that it's prophecy, right? And this goes into it. Iran, it says Tel Aviv, Dubai, Washington. This is still the 13th of June, right? It says Iran launched retaliatory airstrikes at Israel on Friday night, with explosions heard in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the country's two largest cities, following Israel's biggest ever military strike against its long-standing army. Okay? Air raid sirens sounded across Israel as authorities urged the public to take shelter. Missiles were seen over Tel Aviv's skyline, with the military saying Iran had fired 2 salvos, okay, which are not nukes. It says Israel military said Iran fired fewer than 100 missiles, and most were intercepted or fell short. U.S. military helped shoot down Iranian, and see, that's when they first got in. That's when America first got in, and everybody's like, man, they better not get in on this. Ain't none of their business, man. But hey, it is. And then the whole Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson, he couldn't explain why America would help Israel and why American Israelis, and AIPAC and all of them, why they fight so hard at it. Okay, why do they fight so hard at it? Well, because they're the same. They're an extension of the same thing. Okay, when you really look at what it is, they're an extension. That's why I said the least of the flock shall draw them out. Okay, and I believe that's in Jeremiah. All right, I'll read it because I haven't read one in a while. Jeremiah 50:45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, and this is the point. And even when I would have read Ezekiel, it says put hooks in their jaws, basically control Gog and Magog, which is Russia, to protect those lesser nations. Let the weak say I'm strong out of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Okay? You know, so you can understand, with quick understanding, this is what they're talking about. Okay? This is how you put these precepts together, and it's painting with the picture we're looking at now. The scriptures have foretold the things that's happening now. Okay? It says that he have taken against Babylon and his purpose, and that he have purpose with Babylon. What do you mean, Babylon? Well, America's going to be drawn into this war. Okay? Because ultimately that lake of fire is America being destroyed, which is Babylon the Great, a.k.a. the virgin daughter of Babylon. Okay? In the book of Revelation. It says that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. That's talking about the Israelis. The least of the Edomites are going to draw out the rest of the Edomites going down, particularly America, but drawing America into the war. But this is what's going to be the backbone of breaking the Edomite rulership in the world. Okay? Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved with those nukes, because it's going to turn nuclear. We're not at nuclear yet, but it's going to turn nuclear. And the cry is heard among the nations. That goes right into Revelation, the 18th chapter, where the merchants and the nations looked afar off and sighed in Christ said, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Okay, so on and so forth. Back in this article, it says, yep. And it said the U.S. military helped shoot down Iranian missiles headed for Israel. 2 U.S. officials said. Israel's Channel 12 said 2 people were critically injured, 8 moderately, and 34 slightly from shrapnel. Okay. Several buildings were struck in the attack, including an apartment block in the residential neighborhood of Ramat Gan near Tel Aviv. Another building in central Tel Aviv was also struck, causing significant damage to multiple floors. And there's videos, a lot of this stuff. I'm not going to read more, but you can see it, and you're probably already up on it if you're tuned into these types of things, right? Okay, the next one this is from June the 14th. Breaking: Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced Israel will bomb Pakistan because it provided nuclear weapons to Iran and North Korea. So you're just going to go through pillaging, right? Peep the next one. Israel urges U.S. to join war with Iran to eliminate nuclear program. Hey, you're supposed to be our bodyguard. Come on. Come and help us. They're trying to, least of the flock, trying to draw them out. Okay? Israel has asked the Trump administration over the past 48 hours to join the war with Iran in order to eliminate its nuclear program, according to the two Israeli officials. And what do we see when that wonderful? Let me see if I can grab it right quick. The whore that rides the beast, which that whore that rides the beast, the whore is America, and the beast is the NATO EU nations, right? And it's only have that power because of the military of the whore, okay, of Babylon the Great, or the virgin daughter of Babylon of America, okay. When you look at the defense spending, I think the next highest to America, the number 2 is like $4 billion or something like that, but America is like 14 billion, if I recall. And then all of them go down from there. And this is annual spending, if I recall. Okay? I'll bring it up because it's worth it. Well, this is it here. This is close enough for you. See, Israel all the way down there, 27.5. I believe that is billion. Yep. But America, look at the top other guys. America's all the way at 916, which I saw another one. It might be more recent, might be older. I don't remember which one it was. I'm looking, I thought it was red, but that gets, this might be at 2024. Where'd it go? 2024. Let's see. Something like that. Okay, so you see what it is. Global military spending. Okay, which hits the point. This is why they don't have to spend that much over there in Israel, because they know America's got their back. And that's where the money's really going. Okay? Okay, the big picture is by Axios.com, right? The big picture, Israel lacks the bunker buster bombs and large bomber aircraft needed to destroy Iran's Fordo uranium enrichment site, which is built into a mountain and deep underground. The U.S. has both within flying distance of Iran. And I was speaking this just the other day with the brothers when we were teaching together, that when you realize what each country got, America got the nuke. That's why when you see America with that atom bomb from World War II over Japan, they're dropping bombs. Okay? But Russia has always had the missile propulsion, and they've advanced that missile propulsion, which was the other part of it, to get the intercontinental part, which that's in the scriptures as well, also the intercontinental missiles. Okay, but they both, and that's what the Cold War was about. That's what all the microfilm was about. Okay, in those James Bond movies. Okay, trying to spy the Germans, and then the Russian spies, and then the Russian spies, and the American CIA, and all of this other stuff, and KGB, and all of these other things, right? You hear about all them things, all those elements that tied into the Cold War. Well, that's what the nuclear arms race was all about. Okay, one had the propulsion, the other had the nuke, with the atom bomb back then, but had the bomb. Okay, so putting it together was something, what they both been trying to race to do. All right, so I'll read a little bit more. Well, this big picture here. Okay, it says, which is built into a deep mountain. The U.S. has both within flying distance of Iran. But the Trump administration has so far distanced itself from Israel's operation and argued that it would be illegitimate for Iran to retaliate by striking U.S. targets. Which brings me to... Well, I'm going to keep reading, but I'm going to bring me to another video, a little quick video. It says on X, it says, directly attacking Iran, even if the U.S. involvement is limited to bombing a single site, will pull the U.S. directly into the war. Key. However, if Fordo remains operational after the operation ends, Israel will have failed in its goal to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. Okay, behind the scenes, the Israelis joined. Yep, we saw that. Let me go to those others real quick. Okay, we got this on X. It says Iran's plan to strike the U.S. air bases. Strategy explained.
Iran's military strategy for targeting U.S. air bases in the Middle East would likely rely on a coordinated, multi-domain approach.
And the key to this is it's giving you the map and the strategy in the region. Okay, and it's just giving you the visuals of where everything's at. Because as we come forward, you're going to see what's happening. If you already know, I'll try not to spoil it and just let this play.
By combining its missile arsenal, drone capabilities, and proxy forces, Iran aims to overwhelm American defenses and inflict significant damage. Among the high-value targets, Iran would likely prioritize our Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, naval support activity, NS at Bahrain, multiple U.S. military bases in Iraq, and Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. This approach reflects Tehran's broader strategic objectives, deterring U.S. military intervention, retaliating decisively in the event of conflict, and asserting its influence across the region. One of the most probable targets in a direct confrontation is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. As the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, it hosts around 8,000 American troops and serves as the regional headquarters for U.S. Central Command. The base plays a crucial role in supporting air operations across the region and is a central pillar of the U.S. military presence in the Gulf. To strike Al Udeid and similar bases, Iran could deploy ballistic missiles such as the Fateh-110, which has a range of about 300 kilometers, or the QM-1, capable of reaching up to 800 kilometers. If it uses a proximity fuse, it may detonate just above the surface, airburst, to maximize fragmentation and increase the affected area. Complete destruction of unarmored structures and lethal to unprotected personnel. Extreme overpressure, possibly 100 to 300 psi in this zone, will destroy hardened aircraft shelters, fuel tanks, and command posts if directly hit. Depending on where these missiles are launched from, they pose a credible threat to key U.S. installations across the Gulf. In Bahrain, the Naval Support Activity (NAS) base serves as the headquarters of the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command and the U.S. Fifth Fleet. With more than 9,000 American personnel stationed there, it is the only...
Again, it's chess, not checkers. Okay, we want to strike certain pieces on the chessboard. We want to open up certain parts of the board where there's no defense on that side, right?
Permanent U.S. Naval shore base in the Middle East.
Because they don't have the biggest guns. What did he say? It made me think of in the movie Inception. They were shooting it at da-da-da-da. They had like M16, da-da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da. He's like, you got to learn to dream a little bit bigger. And he took the grenade launcher and blew and just shot in the general area and blew the whole, everything up there up, you know. He didn't kill everything, but he blew the whole, everywhere they were hiding behind up and killed them. Okay? That's the thing. So if you don't have the big guns, like America has big guns, right? Russia has big guns. If you don't have big guns, like in Israel or Iran, then you got to be more strategic. And what day is this coming out? This is still on the 13th when this was coming out. Okay, the 14th they start saying we're going to have to retaliate and all this other stuff. But watch.
Its port facilities are capable of accommodating aircraft carriers and amphibious ships.
And that's it. So it's breaking down what's happening in there. That's all I had. I didn't have another piece of this video. But yeah, that's pretty good, giving up the strategy of what's going on. Now, we know that Israel urges U.S. to join the war, right? And a lot of people, man, we ain't joining the war. We don't want to join the war. Well, guess what? Breaking news and unusual. It says, this is on X again. It says the United States has officially entered the war against Iran. What is known so far? U.S. airstrikes have targeted Iran's Fordo nuclear facility, the same one they've been talking about. Trump's decision to intervene directly in support of Israel to dismantle Iran's nuclear program marks a historic escalation in the Middle East. That was by Axios, right? Reuters, it says reports that B-2 bombers were used in the attack. American. The United States informed Israel prior to the strike. Okay, and this is a little video. I'll show a little bit of this video. Big boom. Woo. All right. And that's the sound once it reaches. And we heard a lot of this going on, and this video kept coming up. Right?
You know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am.
And this is back before Trump even got in office, where the borders were wide open, and this guy came through. And then what they're threatening is that they're sleeper cells, right?
Wow, very easy. The entitlement.
No, believe me, I'm much better than that.
The entitlement, guys. Wow.
So if you are smart enough, you would know who I am.
Okay. You thinking that's what it is, but this guy claiming he got all kinds of sleeper cells and this and that, and America get in, is going to be a problem, and you know. So this is like the threat they're throwing out there. Well, there's more to the story.
We suddenly faced with the aggression by American forces to our nuclear facilities. The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression. The U.S. military attack on the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of a UN member state carried out with genocidal Israeli regime carried out in collusion with the genocidal Israeli regime, has once again revealed the extent of the United States' hostility towards the peace-seeking people of Iran. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives.
Okay, now I'm trying to, keep it in lined up, as best I can. But I mean, there's a lot that's happened. Like I said, this is now on the 20. Wait, maybe I went too far. I'll come back to this. Okay, so yeah, we're here where it says, I'm trying to look for the date for it, the 23rd, right? I think I already brought up the 22nd. But anyway, it says Trump said Iran's nuclear sites were obliterated, but questions remain about enriched uranium. Ooh, because they obliterated the sites, but they don't know if they hit their enriched uranium, right? Inspectors should be allowed to account for the stockpiles of uranium, including, most importantly, the 400 kilogram enriched to 60%. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog said. All right, that's how much uranium they're supposed to have over there. Okay, and they're trying to make sure it was that it was gone. Then they got that one. I think that's the one I'm going to now. Well, that's this. Talking about it right there. This is what they did. They obliterated it, right? But watch. Yeah, this was the day before. Here we go. Iran accused U.S. of violating nuclear treaty with airstrikes. The country's nuclear watchdog has reported no leaks or contamination at the targeted sites. This is the Arak reactor in Iran after an Israeli airstrike. Okay, on the 19th. Iran has accused the U.S. of violating international law and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, following overnight airstrikes on 3 of its key nuclear facilities. However, Tehran says primarily inspections have found no signs of radioactive contamination. In a statement issued early on Sunday, the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, confirmed that U.S. strikes targeted its nuclear sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, something like that. The operation conducted in cooperation with Israel was condemned by the Iranian authorities as an illegal and brutal act. Quote, this act of aggression was carried out under the shadow of international indifference and with the apparent support or silence of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the AEOI, said. Okay. Claim victory of the U.S. brokered ceasefire. Iran's Center for the National Nuclear Safety Systems reported that emergency inspections have been completed in all 3 locations. No signs of contamination have been recorded, the agency said, adding that there is no danger to residents living near the affected sites. And what I'm doing is just reading a little bit of these articles for you to show you the timeline. Now, I had different breakdowns. I was bringing out other scriptures, but basically, we hit the scriptures, that there's World War III brewing. The least of the flock, Israel will draw America or Babylon into this thing. Okay, that Russia will be a guard unto those other nations in the Middle East, particularly Persia, which is Iran. Okay, and Libya and all so on and so forth. The other countries there, Gomer, Turkey, all these other countries, right? And so this is what's going on. Now to keep moving, it says Iran launches missiles at U.S. bases in Middle East. Going back to that situation of where it was what the strategy was talking about, right? A barrage of at least 10 ballistic missiles had reportedly been fired at air bases in Qatar and Iraq. Okay? The air bases are being hit. All right? It says Tehran has launched retaliatory strikes against U.S. military installations across the Middle East. Iranian state-run media reported on Monday Operation Herald of Victory has so far reportedly hit facilities in Qatar and Iraq. Unverified footage circulating online shows multiple projectiles in the skies above Qatar. Anti-aircraft defenses were apparently activated and multiple interceptor missiles were launched. Okay, and there's the footage. The attack reportedly targeted Al Uaid Air Base that was in Qatar. It says a sprawling military installation. It was huge. It's like the largest in the region. It's towering, right? It's huge over there. Excuse me. It says U.S. and U.K. militaries southwest of the capital. Okay. Doha. It was not immediately clear whether any incoming projectile struck their intended targets. This is Iran shooting back, and then some are blowing up because of the defense. Okay? The Iron Dome didn't work. If you build a Golden Dome, it's not going to work. Okay, but we're waiting on the big guns to come. And I didn't bring that video that they had where they were playing the saxophone, having weddings and whatnot in the background, and just got a fireworks show. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna read much more of this. This right here. We're targeting U.S. bases now. That one don't sound like the regular ones. Okay. And so we'll go to this. Major U.S. cities on high alert after U.S. strikes Iran, and that happened before. Okay. And now that's a couple of days ago, and they got the Americans nervous. Then they struck back just now. Right? So this is the back and forth. They got the back and forth thing going. Okay? Which shows that they shut off, but like, did you really get Iran? Like, oh no, are they really obliterated? Okay? And that other missile sounded different. Right? I won't play the video, but I'll show you this. Russia. Gog and Magog, okay, those lands, talking about Russia, claims there'll be a guard unto Iran, Persia, right? Claims U.S. strikes on Iran have opened a Pandora's box and could lead to global nuclear catastrophe. Okay, I don't know what that was. But says Russia's United Nations ambassador is claiming that the Trump administration's devastating airstrikes on Iran have opened a Pandora's box, and could lead to a global nuclear catastrophe. Vehemently, Vasily Nebenzia. Somebody walking around over there. But anyway, it says, speaking during an emergency meeting of the Security Council on Sunday, said Russia vehemently condemns the irresponsible, dangerous and provocative actions taken by the USA against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is a sovereign country and a UN member state. Okay. Though it's, quote, through its actions, the U.S. has opened Pandora's box and no one knows what new consequences this may lead to. Well, we know, the prophets know, it's going to lead to World War III. The second woe has passed, yet the third woe cometh quickly. Behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That's why I opened it up with that, because that's what this is all leading to. Okay, well, America will be turned into that lake of fire that everybody that took the mark of the beast will be judged with, okay? As well as the laser fire of the chariots when Yahushua enters the war. And they will turn against, from fighting one another. And I'm not going to go all the way into that right now, but they'll turn from fighting one another into fighting the Lord, okay? Is 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. All right. Anyway, it says here, I think it's obvious to everyone in this chamber that unless we stop the escalation, the Middle East will find itself on the brink of large-scale conflict. Well, through the Holy Spirit, it's called the Valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh-Shaphat, the land of the Most High's judgment. Okay, Harmageddon or Armageddon, Harmageddon meaning mountain of troops. Okay, because a lot of the troops of the earth are going to end up in the Middle East and get buried and fertilize the soil. Anyway, I'm going a little deep with it, but anyway, it says, which is fraught with unpredictable consequences for the entire international security architecture, and the whole world could find itself on the verge of a nuclear catastrophe, he added. Okay, Iran's Fordow nuclear site struck second time as IDF targets access routes. Okay, they show the B-12, the B-2s, the B-2 bombers. Okay, and all of this still going on. Okay, they got to keep, now it's like now they're trying to one-up each other. That's why I named the other video days ago Volley Bomb, because you knew they were going to just be lobbing missiles back and forth, bombs back and forth at each other. Okay, and then eventually they're going to get past all this old ass stuff and they're going to start hitting other more serious targets with more intel coming out, and then they're going to start using more heavier guns, more nuclear. Okay, but before all of that, we always remind you, before all of that, it'll be mandatory to take the MOT to the B. Okay, because you got to get judged for taking that. So they're not going to destroy America before the MOT to the B comes, and that peace and safety still has to come around. Okay, yet shall come sudden destruction. I'm not going to read any more of this. That hit the point. Now there's another article, like one or so more. Okay, and we'll do this one just a day ago now. It says Putin says Russia is ramping up production of Orsenic missile. Let's look that up. Okay, I asked about the Orsenic missile. Russia's Orsenic missile, sometimes called hazelnut tree, is an advanced Russian intermediate range hypersonic ballistic missile with several key aspects. And when I went back and looked at Tucker Carlson speaking to Vladimir Putin in the other video I did, okay, I went back and I saw that he was saying that we have ballistic missiles, basically the propulsion, and we've been sharpening that every day since the Cold War. Right? Key features: hypersonic speed and maneuverability. It flies at a speeds exceeding Mach 10 and 11, roughly 2.5 to 3 kilometers, reaching targets 8,000 kilometers away in about 15 minutes. Okay, multiple warheads and submunitions equipped with 3 to 6 MIR MIRV, right? Warheads, MIRV MIRV warheads, each reportedly carrying 6 submunitions. Ukrainian intel claims 6 warheads. Versatile payload. So they can now load these missiles and project them way further and faster, okay, with different levels of explosions. Okay, and that was the thing. They could propel, have the propulsion to get it to wherever they need to, and they can go to the varying degrees of size, of damage, right? But America had the big gun. They went from the atom to the hydrogen. Now they're at the nuke, and now they're multiple nukes, right? It says versatility payload can be armed with either conventional explosives or nuclear warheads. Putin's launch was with non-nuclear payloads. Okay, developed from RS-26 Rubis, something like that, derived from Russian RS-26 Rubis ICBM intercontinental ballistic missile without a booster stage, giving it intermediate range classification 1,000 to 3,400 miles or 1,600 to 5,500 kilometers. Okay, so they're showing you the power of it. Now end with this precept, and this is where we're at. Okay, and this is where we're at, and this is the prophecy. And I was talking to a Christian just this last week, and he was like, "Well, the Apocrypha is not canon. It's not canon." Hey, man, you can say that all you want, but explain this. How's it not canon or through the Spirit when it's exactly what's happening today, written thousands of years ago? It was written before the New Testament. What are you talking about? Well, how come they don't approve it? Well, they don't want this to be true. They don't want this stuff to be in there. Okay, and I'm going to go straight to the point where if you go into this chapter, it's all about missiles, man. And different destructions and plagues coming upon the earth. Okay, I'll read 16, then I'm going to jump up to 13. Well, it says it, but it says, like as an arrow, which they call nuclear missiles arrows, because that's also how you describe them, but that's one of the terms for it, which is shot of a mighty archer. We're going to get to that strong archer. Returneth not back, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. Jumping up to 13, it says, for strong, matter of fact, I'll start up at 9, 8, 7. May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? The mighty Lord Yahweh sendeth the plagues, and who is he that may drive them away? Okay, and this goes right to Isaiah, the 54th chapter, 16th verse. All right, it says, talking about behold, I have created the smith which bloweth the coals in the fire. Let me get it, because I love that scripture. Real quick, behold, I have created the smith, is Isaiah 54:16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bring forth an instrument for his work. Whose work? The Heavenly Father's work. And I have created the waster to destroy. That's these missiles, these nukes, and so on and so forth. All right. Now going back, it says, verse 8 again, it said, the mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that may drive them away? All right. A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? No one, because once the Heavenly Father sends this out, that's it, man. He wants it to be accomplished. It's his will, right? He says, he shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord Yahweh shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea riseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled. The fishes thereof also. So they're talking about the earth rocking to and fro as a drunkard. Okay, from the explosions or implosions, you can even say, of these nukes, of these volley bombs getting thrown back and forth. Okay, but it's eventually leading to the big nuke that creates the lake of fire. All right, but it's about to talk about what I'm about to read. Is about to talk about the intercontinental ballistic missile, the ICBM that Russia was talking about. Right? It says, and the fish there before the Lord and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. The Heavenly Father bendeth that bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss. All right, and it goes in Revelation, they're going to hit their intended targets. It shall not break their ranks. Okay, 200,000. Okay, it says, when they began to be shot into the ends of the world. So who can shoot an arrow to the ends of the world? That's intercontinental ballistic missiles is what it's referring to. Okay? If you see it, you see it. You don't, you don't. But this is prophecy coming to pass. We've been rejoicing all week for nearly 2 weeks now. Okay? And this is a beautiful thing that's happening in the earth. Why? Because we're that much closer to our salvation. So Lord willing is edifying, giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Yashai, Bashim Rachakodash, and double honor to our apostles and bishops, the elders of the great millstone, taught us this truth. Greetings, salutations, blessings, much love unto you elect. To the next one, Shalom.